Clanmores 35 has just gone down in the Crown Plaza here in Belfast. I'm Noel Phil. I just called the action alongside my colleague and work wife, Phil Campbell, the powerful Phil Campbell. Phil, Clanmores, I asked you this earlier in the night, we're 35 instalments into Clanmores, it's the premier organisation in Irish mixed martial arts, and I think that's stood to by the fact that we're on 35. So just the history of the promotion itself, to continue what it is, and each show keeps just getting better and better. You've competed on it, you work on it as a commentator. Just talk to me a little bit about Clanmores before we jump specifically into this card.
I think what the unique thing about Clanmores is that it unashamedly showcases the best mixed martial artists on the island, north or south. There's no bias in terms of the gym you fight out of. If you're competing on Clanmores, you're competing against the best. And I think it's something that all young fighters and all established amateurs and burgeoning pros aspire to be on.
Well, when you look at Irish MMA, we're in a difficult time currently in Irish mixed martial arts. But Clanmores keeps churning out show after show after show, and it is. I know. I've always talked about, I'd love to see a national title in Irish MMA. So there's a legitimate Irish national lightweight champion, for example. But I think Clanmores is probably that title. Do you think that's a fair enough statement, that it will be considered the most illustrious amateur title in Ireland?
Well, what speaks to that is, I was just having a word with Chris Fields, one of the head coaches at Team KF, and we were talking about Carl Gallagher, and I said, what's next for Carl Gallagher? Well, he's essentially achieved the highest accolade he can in the amateur game by winning the Clanmores amateur featherweight title. So for somebody like Chris Fields to say that about the Clanmores title, that's just compounds what you were saying, and it's an illustration of how well thought of Clanmores is as an organisation.
Bringing it into tonight, and tying it in what you just said about the best young fighters. You look at the opening fight tonight, Oisin Fox against Joe Beck. This was a junior fight, and for me, this created the narrative of Clanmores 35. Because I'd say, what a way to open the card here. Two young fighters showcasing exactly what young Irish mixed martial arts brings me. So when you look at it, Oisin Fox got the win here tonight, but it's weird with MMA, isn't it? It's one of the sports that you sort of you didn't come out bad in that defeat, and you could say that for young Joe Beck, but that fight was incredible, fast-paced technique, it had everything. Yeah,
the thing that you need to remember about these two young martial artists are they're 17. They're 17 years old, and they're already coming in with that ability, with that quality, putting on a fight that you could have put on anywhere in the card, and as you said, really set the tone. And Oisin Fox is only 17 years old, yet he's a multiple-time K1 champion. Now, he's part of a great team in Team Torres, and he's transitioning so well into mixed martial arts. Personally, I'd like to see him get a couple more fights at that junior level. Then when he's 18, let's get the shin guards off and let's see him compete at that UAR level.
And again, it's you see obviously the size, being so small and stuff. He's going to have to grow into his body, being such a huge fighter. But I just thought it was a perfect way of summing up where Irish MMA is, as in the evolution of the sport here, and you can see these young fighters coming through. So officially opening the card, if you like, in the amateur, we had Taka Mandu taking on Shane Mullen, and Mandu, he's training out of, you spoke already about Chris Fields, and I have to mention that Team KF are slowly becoming probably the most well thought of gym, I think it's fair to say. The calibre of fighter they're putting out. As I said, actually Rob, that I travelled up to the show today with Jerry from KO Media, and he said out in Team KF, they're not just making fighters, they're making characters, and I thought, I'm robbing that on you, and I did, I said it in commentary. But against Shane Mullen, very tough fighter, a lot of Muay Thai experience, but 3-0 Mandu coming into this, and I think this was an excellent fight for him. He was tested and pushed.
What I really respect about Taka is his versatility and his ability to adapt. We all know how rangy he is as a striker, right? He can knock guys out with his hands or with his feet, but he's able to, if it's a really tight contest standing, he's intelligent enough to know what he needs to adapt to, and he'll score his takedowns. He'll get in there, he can get on the ground and secure dominant positions. I think again that kind of speaks to the strength of the KF team out of Swords.
And when we look at the card, it's just too much to cover. There's 21 fights. But one of the standouts for me, and it was almost for the fight itself, it was a wild exchange. The bigger guys, 205, Lee McClure taking on Ryan Savage. Lee McClure was sporting what I can only describe as Kylie Minogue style pants. But it was a real firefight, and Lee, you know very well, of course, coming from a rugby background, really nice guy. The cake, if it's in shot, is he's passing this cake around to everybody. But yeah, a really exciting fight for two light heavies. Incredibly
exciting. Both guys making their full unified amateur rules debut. Lee McClure made that fight exciting by virtue of the fact he did not keep his hands up. That's something he needs to work on, and fair play to Ryan Savage for exploiting that, and he caught Lee a number of times. So Lee had to dig deep, score the takedown, and finish with some. As soon as he heard that 10-second clapper, that ground and pound was devastating, and rightly called a halt to the action.
We had a champion defend his belt tonight as well with Carl Gallagher. They always say it's easy. I said this as well in commentary. Sometimes it's easier to climb to the summit, but when you reach the summit, it's hard to stay up there. It's probably cold or something. I don't know. That's where the analogy comes from. But it's a target on your back, and tonight the target was fixed on Gallagher's back. He had a very tough test, but he came through. And as you said at the start of this conversation about Chris Field, you know, that test is great for Carl. He's where he wants to be. So, what did you think of the champion's first defence?
The only thing I can do, and I'm making a concerted effort to try and be critical of his performance, because it was so good. The only thing over the course of the 3 rounds was he got swept once. But again, showing what an intelligent mixed martial artist he is. When a similar situation arose in the 3rd round, he was able to adapt. His hips were heavy. He left very little space between himself and his opponent. And what I really like about Carl Gallagher is he's one of the most intelligent fighters I've come across. Incredibly analytical, very smart with everything he does. Everything he does has a purpose. It's methodical. It's point A to point B, point C, point D. It's methodical, and it's great to watch.
Yeah, and like what I like about Carl, and you said it in commentary, was he almost creates, when you looked at Camille and when you checked earlier, his teammate, he, as we said, is like a process doc of wrestling. You do this to this to this to this, and he systematically shuts his opponents down. Well, when you look at Carl, he almost gives that space to say, go on, take your chance, go on. And then he exploits that by either advancing or knocking in a submission. He was doing that, but then when he got swept by Denning, and you got to give it to Denning was pushing his hardest at it. But I was impressed where he lost that reversal that you were talking about. But then he came out with his style has almost changed a little bit. He's unorthodox the way he stands, and it's like he's coiling the spring to attack. But again, a big defence, and he's one of the fighters that you'll see when you look at his record. You'd sort of look at it and go, his record is a bit wishy-washy, you know. But that's the experience learned in amateur, and I think that is such a huge factor in amateur MMA, is that losses, they don't really matter if you've learned from them. Of course, everybody wants to be on a winning streak, yada yada. But like another example I gave, a teammate of Carl Gallagher, I thought the making of Ian Gary was his defeat.
Yeah, I would agree. And just to go back to the record of Carl Gallagher, he was 4-3 leading into this fight, 5-3 now. But to me, that says at the amateur level, he's consistently fought the best opponents available. There's no padding of the records there. It's it's win or learn, and he takes those lessons and implements that. And every time that we've seen Carl Gallagher in recent memory, he's gotten better.
Yeah, and I think we said that in commentary as well. And this is the thing about these young fighters as well. And you can go through the whole card from 1 to 21. These young fighters, they come in, you see them fight, they go away in 3 months' time, they come back and they're a different guy. When you look at to talk about Camille's fight with Armand wasn't on this card. I was speaking to Armand like a week ago, and he was saying, "I'd love to be on Clan Wars." And I'm there going, yeah, well, it's a great show, we stay ready, I'd love to see you have a full camp. I said to him, he said, I'm always in camp, so I always have a full camp. Opportunity knocked, he got Camille. But again, talking about that learning, that's his first loss as an MMA fighter, so there's big learnings in that fight for him. Like I always refer to Armand as he fights very similar to Carlos Condit. He's got nice and light on his back foot, strikes yap, and he was telling me about when it hits the mat, you're going to see new level, new submissions. But against Camille, that didn't show. So the learnings from that, I'm very excited to see Armand fight next, because he suffered a defeat in that manner. When he goes back to Sanda MMA, what's he going to make the improvements on?
He's going to wrestle. He's going to throw himself headlong into the grappling realm of mixed martial arts. And we forget that Armand is only 18 years old. He doesn't turn 19 until July, and he already has 2 wins via submission. An incredibly accomplished striker, 15-4-1 as an amateur K1 fighter with 4 titles. So I can see him going away, working diligently on his wrestling, and if he does so and develops like an almost sprawling brawl style, with being so young, he has the potential to be unstoppable moving forward.
One of the fights that we had was a K1 fight, and this came through because Peter Woods fell out of the fight.
Yeah.
And we Jumbo O'Neill took on Lorcan, stepped in on short notice, 2 days notice to take this fight. Lorcan came in, and in some ways it made me go, oh, I wanted to see the MMA fight, because O'Neill looked phenomenal. It ended up being a knockout, but he was on his way to TKO with the 3 knockdowns. But man, there's killing a kill switch and there's hitting the kill switch, and wow, did he turn the lights off of him. And
that was in 12-ounce gloves.
Yeah.
Now imagine what's going to happen when O'Neill has an MMA fight and he's wearing those lighter gloves, maybe 6-ounce, 7-ounce. It was a signal of intent. The first hook he threw, it almost looked lethargic, but the power it generated, and then he was able just to shut off the lights of Lorcan. And as we say, fair play to Lorcan for taking the fight. And there was a moment in the cage where Lorcan was separated from his senses, and a hush fell over the crowd. Yeah. Thankfully, he was able to get back on his feet. And credit has to go to O'Neill for not overindulging in the celebration at that moment.
Yeah, he was very quick to sort of say to the crowd, let's be respectful. Once Owen was fine, then he sort of entered his celebration mode. We can't have this conversation without talking about a fan favourite. The return, and tip to you, sir, doing it for us old guys. Jeff Hall returns to Clan Wars and gets the win in a fight that he was looking in danger in the first round. And we always talk about when fighters have been away, ring rust, is it a real thing, does it exist? But also a 39-year-old stepping into the cage, is it going to be heightened, I suppose is the best word I can put to that. And it looked to be, because at the time Gardy was landing the shots, a couple of threats with guillotines, talking to Decky Larkin, the referee. He thought Jeff had almost dropped at one stage to one of the chokes where he looked, but Hummer 2.0 came out in the second round and got it done and made his opponent tap the strikes. Now, worth noting that Decky Larkin was on the verge of just stepping in at that point, but a big win for the old guy. With a beautiful tan, by the way.
Jibril Kandari, 13 years younger than Jeff Hall. Yeah. And he went in there, he hadn't read the script at all. Yeah. This was meant to be the comeback fight.
I actually thought his tactics were great. Yeah. Because he's like, I'm sure he was aware that Jeff hadn't fought in a while, so he thought, let's put it on him and let's put it on him early. And I said that to you in between rounds. Yeah. Has he blown his gasket and his load by trying to get Jeff out of there in the first round?
And I think he had. I think he had landed a couple of shots. He was he was close with a couple of guillotine attempts, so he smelt blood in the water and he charged forward, and that perhaps speaks to the inexperience of the younger fighter. Jeff Hall was able to absorb that, and by his own admission, when he got back, he looked better in the second round than he did in the first round. So I think with somebody like Andy Burroughs in his corner, able to bring that heart rate down, and he went out and he looked considerably better, and the ground and pound he was landing, forcing your opponent to tap due to strikes. That tells me just how much he was putting everything into those strikes.
I'm actually just kicking myself. I call that a TKO. It's a technical submission.
It is technical submission, yeah.
Mark Gunnar won't be happy with me.
Just one more thing on Jeff. I asked Jeff in the cage, was this just a sign-off fight? Was this to come back to show you that to show you that you can still do this? And he was adamant, vehemently told me that no, I want another fight, perhaps even a pro fight before I'm done. Yeah, that's interesting.
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? The fighter never leaves the body, you know. Even as you get, and unfortunately we've seen cases, and I'm not saying that, but you've seen cases of Chuck Liddell coming back. You know, the fighter never leaves him. A couple of other fights I want to touch on is Garrett McCormick tasted the success for the first time, gets the first win tonight against a very dangerous Callum Peace. But I thought his game plan was fantastic. The inside leg kicks to stop that footwork of Peace, it was phenomenal.
Because we know Callum Peace he's so light on his feet, almost like a figure skater with the way he just swoops in and out. What I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from Callum was an end product with that footwork. You know, landing the strikes at the end of it. But Gareth McCormick going inside, outside with those leg kicks. When Callum Peace switched stances, he just chopped the leg again. It was beautiful. And at the end of that fight, the two of them were just standing in the pocket, just trading. It was great to see. The head movement from both was fantastic as well.
I want to cover the pro fights. Main event, let's start with that. We had De Silva taking on Dylan Douglas. And when I said to you, this was the pro debut for both fighters. And what a fight to take. And I said it as well to you, that in MMA, there's no padding in careers, especially in the Irish scene in MMA. You've got to fight the guy who you're going to fight. Like, there's none of this padding malark. And you Dylan Douglas taking on a legitimate black belt who had never competed in MMA.
Yeah.
And he held his own, Dylan Douglas, on the floor, but
he was never disgraced in those situations, and was even looking for submissions of his own.
Yeah.
It was great to see. But as we know, Dylan Douglas, a staple of the amateur Irish MMA scene, multiple-time title holder, coming in against, as you say, a legitimate threat and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and it was just those subtle differences of a lifetime training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that won the fight for De Silva. Just the positioning of the hips, the way that he was able to shut down the hips of Dylan Douglas. But Dylan Douglas, when he had those opportunities on the feet, he looked fantastic.
I thought Dylan was landing nice shots from the bottom with the elbows, but then so was De Silva. He was overturning that elbow, he was just rolling it over to land the shots. Got a little cut under the eye. But I thought it was an interesting match. Well, I suppose the next question for you, Phil, is what's next for both of these guys? You know, where would you like to see both of them compete next, turn around? Dylan, obviously, we talk about records and stuff like that, so he's obviously lost the debut, while De Silva has won the debut. For what do you want to see next for both guys?
Yes, one guy's 1-0 and one guy's 0-1, but I don't think if any promoter in the UK or Europe were to look at that fight, I don't think either fighter lost any kind of stock. You know, Dylan Douglas may be 0-1, but he didn't lose. If anything, he's enhanced his reputation with that performance. So I could see him popping up on any major European show. Obviously, I would love to see him back on Clan Wars competing at pro. Michael De Silva, I'd like to see him back in working on his striking, because he was throwing the overhand and he was landing the overhand, but had he turned his hip over ever so slightly and got more torque on that, it's potentially a knockout shot. So I'd like to see him work on that and come back, and Dylan could walk onto any pro roster in Europe.
Adam Gustaf gets back in the win column. And again, what I liked about what Gustaf done was, it was the first pro fight on the card. And we sort of talked about, you know, I always find there's a lot of pressure on the professionals after such a great card of amateurs. It's almost like they're going, God, I got to sort of, you know, step it up here. The amateurs have put on one hell of a show. But you said in commentary as well, pros tend to start a little slower because there's a longer duration of the rounds. But I thought Gustaf, he got caught in a weird position where he was sort of in a triangle.
The inverted triangle from the bottom,
So he stayed calm in that position, eventually turned around, got his opponent, held him down in like what we were referring to as the anchor position, and just let hell loose on his opponent and gets the finish. But a big win for Gustaf, considering, you know, he was currently on a 3-fight losing streak before that.
Well, as you know, I train with Adam Gustaf, and at times he looks disinterested. But it's just his fighting style. You know, he springs to life. It's almost as if he's baiting his opponent into either making a mistake or lulling them into a false sense of security. Because when he was in the dominant position and found an opening, he exploded into life, getting the finish. So it's a great win for Adam Gustaf, and I think it's time for him to really push on.
Other standouts that I haven't thought that popped to your mind. What was a big standout, big fight for you?
Off the top of my head, the Danny McGowan Michael Swan fight was just
especially that first round. To
use a cliche, it was fireworks. From start to finish.
I think you actually said it in commentary. You were like, that first round had everything. Like if you had a checklist of knockdowns, we had that. Almost submission, we had that. Another knockout, counter strike for a knockdown. We had that. It was absolutely everything.
Because Michael Swan initially knocked down from that beautiful straight left, right down the pipe from Danny. And then Michael Swan, with that, he was perhaps moments away from winning via rear naked choke. It was a fantastic fight.
Locked in. I still don't know how I'm going to do that.
And that's probably the best I've seen Michael Swan look.
He mixed up everything. You said that. He like, obviously coming from the caliber of kickboxing background that he has, training IFS a long time now as well. But for me, it was like he gelled his two backgrounds together, and he looked like a real mixed martial artist tonight. In
his previous fight against Fionn McAleer, I think it was, he was guilty of falling in love too much with the ground. He was going for calf crushes, he was going for toe holds, and that wasn't really at a stage where that was go-to in his repertoire. This time he was able to blend everything. He was able to show that he's not just a kickboxer that competes in MMA, he's a mixed martial artist. So it was great to see from Michael Swan.
For me, again, an ultra performance from my perspective, looking at it, is Henry Corrigan. He just continues to impress. This is a guy who he basically signed up to IFS to go through like the beginners class, program, like fundamentals, beginners. He now finds himself 5-0 as an amateur fighter. Like, and again, impressive. His cat, like I was talking to him during the week, and he'd said to me, you know, I love striking, but man, I just love grappling. Like, I love choking people out, making people tap, say, I give up. And he's done it again tonight.
I think now that Henry has gone 5-0, he's knocking on the door for title contention. Yes, this fight was at a catch weight of 60 kilos.
Yeah.
I think his preferred weight, he can get down comfortably to 57. I think he's very much in the title mix there. It's very difficult to ignore him now with regards to title contention.
You'd asked them leading up to it as well, you know, how does it feel fighting a car without your brothers?
Yeah, I asked that to him earlier in fight week, you know, thinking he was going to say, oh, you know, I'd like the support of them, I'd rather compete with them. He's like, no, this is great, all eyes on me. A very confident young fighter, it's great to see.
And it's probably a lot easier on Mammy Corrigan as well. She doesn't have to go through the hell of watching all the kids fight.
Yeah, so I think it worked out great for everybody.
Yeah. That has been Clan Wars 35. If you want to follow Clan Wars on Instagram, it's at Clan Wars MMA. If you want to follow me and look at my dodgy life that I'm at, apparently I'm Noel OK commentary _commentary, I think, and you're PC _commentary because you're cool.
I am indeed. PC _commentary, give us a follow.
But yeah, it's been a phenomenal night, and Phil, as always, a pleasure calling fights. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in.